Welcome back, guys. This is CIT225 and we are covering a course, Network Security and Penetration Testing. We have been covering this chapter about Windows Security and CLI tools, where we try to understand different file formats which are used under Windows. They are FAT, FAT32, EXFAT and NTFS. Now, understanding of these file formats are important because if you are investigating a hard drive, you must have a fair knowledge about the file system which was installed or the file system which was used on that hard disk drive. Now we are continuing and we are trying to understand whole disk encryption method. Now it is becoming very important these days because loss of personal identity information and trade secrets caused by computer thefts has become more of a concern these days. Companies are facing a lot of problems when their information, social security numbers and addresses, etc., are being leaked out from these computers. When the information reaches these criminals, they try to use that information in order to apply for credit cards, and they'll even try to get your trade secrets if the information was leaked out from the organization. On the other hand, there have been lots of incidents where theft about laptops and mobile phones are taking place globally, and it is really affecting the organizations because nowadays we are relying way too much on these gadgets for our daily communication and things. That's why personal identity information is very important to be kept safe. If anything goes wrong, if your device goes missing or there is a hardware issue or someone steals it, there is an encryption mechanism with the help of which they won't be able to utilize the information which is available on these machines. Now, in order to prevent the loss of information, software vendors now have provided whole disk encryption, with the help of which we can encrypt the entire hard drive, and if the person gets it, it becomes very difficult for them to access the data. Now, current whole disk encryption tools which are available, lots of different tools are available in the market, but some are vendor specific tools as well. First of all, they have introduced a pre-boot authentication. Now, the reason for that is, if in Windows computer you don't have a password for a computer, but if you are taking out the hard drive from that computer and if you'll install it as a secondary drive on your computer, it's going to read the contents what are there in the hard disk, so there is no security mechanism. So in these kind of cases, if someone would physically take out the hard drive, copy the data and then put the hard drive back in the computer or the laptop, you will not be able to detect it and you will not be able to stop it. But the only way to recognize the only way to stop that is by encrypting the hard drive. So before the computer even boots up, pre-BIOS, it would ask you for an authentication. It could be a passkey or it could be a biometrics thing. Once you pass those credentials, only then your operating system would load. Even if you'll take out the hard drive and it will try to connect it to another computer and will try to read the data, it won't be readable because the hard drive is encrypted. Now, full or partial disk encryption is there with secure hibernation. You can select which kind of encryption you are going for, and then there are very advanced encryption algorithms are available over there, and there is a key management feature as well with the help of which you can decrypt the hard drives. Now, whole disk encryption tools encrypt each sector of the drive separately. So it is making sure that no one can damage the data or could get access to the data even if the computer is stolen or the hard drive is removed from the computer. So most of these tools are encrypting the computers at the boot sector to prevent any loss, or by bypassing the secure drive partition, or examine and encrypt drive by decrypt it first. Run a vendor specific program to decrypt it, and many vendors use a bootable CD or one-time passphrase which is available. Now, the problem in that is that every time, first of all, it can be used only once on a machine because it's one-time passphrase. Second thing is it takes a lot of time in order to decrypt sector by sector till you'll get the access to it. The reason of doing that is, for example, if a company is purchasing all Dell laptops in an organization, they would be provided with a boot CD or a USB, with the help of which, if someone would forget the pass key in order to decrypt the system, they can use that equipment in order to secure the data, in order to get the data back from the computers. Now next is we'll be looking at a tool which is introduced by Microsoft, which is called Bitlocker, which is encrypting the hard drive as well. The feature was available when they released the version of Windows Vista Enterprise and Ultimate versions of it, and later it came in Windows 7, 8 and 10 Professional and Enterprise versions, and then they started it in Server 2008, and later all the latest releases of server operating system have this feature built in. Now there are some requirements in order to have the thing on the computer. First of all, the computer must be capable of running at least Windows Vista or later. It should have a trusted platform module available on that, or microchip, in order to have it running, which is version 1.2 or newer. A compatible BIOS version, so that it works with Trusted Computing Group, which is TCG. Two partitions should be available on the computer, and the BIOS should be configured so that it looks for the hard drive first before it checks any other things which are connected to the computer. The reason for that is that we don't want any user to go to the BIOS settings and change the settings that it would load from a USB or anything, so that they can load another operating system through that, and then they'll be able to read the data which is available in the hard drive. So they are first checking the hard drive. If it's encrypted, it would stop you over there. You'll have to pass the passkey, or you'll have to enter the secret key which you have in order to decrypt the hard drive so that it can load the operating system. There are lots of tools available out there. It really depends what's the latest one and what is matching your requirements, but every year we have really nice and user-friendly tools available out there. Now some available third-party tools which you can find on the internet are endpoint encryption and voltage secure file, and then we have Westcrypt, volume decryptor, etc. Now we'll try to understand what is a registry. Now registry plays an important role in a computer since it has all the information related to the files which are installed on the computer, as well as the overall operations of the computer. Just try to understand it from the concept that there will be multiple users using the same computer, but every computer will have different profile settings. Now all those separate profile settings are maintained in registry. So if a user 1 logs in, he'll find different settings. There will be a different settings for user 2 and so on. So all that information is usually managed under the registry. There are various tools available in the market through which you can edit the registry, but it's a straightforward procedure. It's if you are aware of the things what you are doing, because the data which is mostly appearing in that is in in the hex format. So it's better to understand the basics of registry before you make any changes to it, because the changes that you are making in the registry are directly affecting the operating system and its operations. To view the registry, you can type in, you can click start, go to run and type reg edit, registry editor, and the small form of that, and it would open the registry editor. Now you can see different programs which are installed in the Windows, even the settings about the programs, basic configuration about the operating system, and so on. It has always been there in the Windows operating system. It started from Windows 95, 98, and then came to XP, and then Vista and ME Edition, and so on. So it has been there always. Now there are different terminologies which are used in Windows registry, like the registry setting is there. There is a registry editor. There is an H key. There is a key for every entry. Then there is a sub key. There are some branch keys under it, and the default keys which are there, and then we have the hives. Now if we'll try to understand a little bit about these things, the registry is a hierarchical database containing the systems and user information. If we talk about registry editor, it's the utility for viewing and modifying the data which is there in the registry. H key is the Windows splits the registry into category with the prefix H key, and Windows 9X have 6 H keys categories. Now a key is, each H key contains a folder referred to as the keys. If we talk about a subkey, it's a key displayed under another key, is a key similar to a subfolder of the Windows or the File Explorer. A branch is a key. Its contents include subkeys and make up of a bunch of registry entries. A value is a name or a value in a key. It's similar to a file or its data content. Default values, all keys have default value that may or may not contain data, but they are the default values which are set by Microsoft. And hives are the specific branches in H key, for example, under user or local machine, or the SAM account security, where we are maintaining the username and passwords, and the information related to the user who's logged into the computer. Now they are just giving an example of it, as we just covered that SAM is covering about the management and the security settings. Software is talking about the settings associated with the username and passwords, and anti-user is under the system profile. Now here you can see that H key classes root is the main root directory. Then there are settings for the current user, and then on a local machine, then the settings for all users who are logging into the computer, and the configuration for the current users which is there on the computer. Now that's the root and the user and local machine they are explaining over here for the configuration and the data. Now there are different tools, as I told you, available out there. You can use X-based forensics to check it, or OS forensics. We have used both of the we have used OS forensics and FTK in our lab exercises, and then we have Forensics Explorer as well. That's the basic view of it, how we can find the keys. There is an option if we want to find the keys only, or the value or the data which is available. There are subcategories in it, so if you want to make specific changes in that, you can go to the subtree, open it, and can modify the settings on it. Now we'll try to understand what are startup tasks on Windows operating systems. Startup tasks are the tasks which usually start with the Windows, and we learn what files are accessed when Windows start. This information helps to determine when the suspect computer was last accessed. There will be a timestamp on it, and the data which was modified, important with the computer that might have been used in the incident, and reporting that nothing is changed on those computers. Now we can even change a selective startup or a normal startup on the computers depending on the kind of setup we have. Now Windows 8 and 10 and multiple platform operating system can run on desktop, laptops, and different modes, just like on smartphones as well. Now the boot process uses a boot configuration data, which we call as BCT, and BCT contains the boot loader that initiates the system startup process. You can choose the operating system in between, from which drive you want to boot and which operating system you want to boot. All that information usually appears over there. Now all NTFS computers perform the following steps when the computer is turned on. It would check the power on self-test post, we call it post. Then there is the initial startup, which is checking the overall peripherals which are connected to the computer. Then we have a bootloader, which shows us the list of operating systems which are installed on the computer, so that you can choose that you want to boot your operating system using which tool. Then we have hardware detection and configuration, which is checking all these things. Then kernel loading, looking for the operating system core files, and user logon at the end when the user profile would load. Now the startup files on the Windows Vista usually used to come with NTLDR program with Windows XP used to load the operating system. It has been replaced with these three utilities, which is called bootmgr, winload, and winresume. The problem with NTLDR was that there were lots of cases that we saw that NTLDR will be shown as missing or corrupted in the operating system. Further, it was very simple to replace the NTLDR NTLDR file from the Windows. If, for example, one Windows XP machine was corrupted, and if you have another Windows XP working machine, you can copy this file from the old computer to the new computer, and your computer would boot just like a normal computer. So there was no security mechanism on that it would look for the specific configuration based on the hardware. Now Windows Vista includes the BCD editor for modifying the boot options under the BCD registry file, and BCD stores and replaces the Windows XP boot INI file. Now these are the boot files in Windows XP, which were called common, and then containing the instructions on the hardware and devices. And normally NetOS kernel was the executables for the kernel. Win32, as you know, that it was the kernel portion for Windows 32 subsystem, and so on. Just a basic information about different data link libraries which are there in order to boot an operating system. Now the contamination and concerns with Windows XP was when you start Windows XP and TFS workstation, several files are accessed immediately, and the last access date and the time for these files and the current date would be changed automatically. So it destroys the potential evidence which used to be there. That's why they came up with the new form of securities and everything. And then we understood that Windows XP was the only very successful operating system at that time, and things were evolving at that time. So people started to find different vulnerabilities in the operating system, and they started targeting the different weaknesses of operating system, and then we evolved with the passage of time. Now we'll be understanding what are virtual machines and what's the main purpose of the virtual machines. Virtual machines enable you to run another operating system on an existing physical computer known as the host of the computer by emulating a computer hardware environment. Now in this situation, what's happening is that there are lots of times when we need to test the operating system, or if we want to test any Linux operating system, or we want to install a new version or a copy of Windows 10, or we are testing Windows 7 or Windows 8, and you don't want to change the original configuration of your computer, you can always install a secondary operating system as a virtual machine on the same computer. Now that would be relying on the resources of the host computer. It would be taking the CPU power from the host computer. It would be taking the hard disk capacity from the host computer. It would be even sharing the RAM with the host computer. So whenever you're setting up a virtual machine, make sure that your host computer has enough resources to be utilized for the virtual machines. There are lots of softwares available out there with the help of which you can set up virtual machines. VirtualBox is very common out there, which is free, available with on VirtualBox website. You can download it from there, and then you can download a free version of Microsoft Windows Enterprise 90 days trial version from Microsoft website and test it as a virtual operating system. You can even use a VMware workstation, which is very powerful as compared to VirtualBox. It has lots of advanced features, but it's not free. It is available for 30 days trial period with a fully functional. You can try everything, and if you're interested, you can buy it. Third option which is available is in Windows 10 Professional and Windows 7. It was available in Windows 7 as well, but the very advanced version of it, Hyper-V, is available in Windows 10 Professional onwards, where you'll be able to install the Hyper-V, and through Hyper-V you can install virtual machines on the computer. A virtual machine is just a few files on your hard drive, must allocate space for it. A virtual machine recognizes the components of the physical machine because it's relying on the resources of the host computer, and you can install a virtual operating system on it. Now mind it that even the network interface card would be bridged together between the virtual host and virtual machine and the host. So your traffic for the virtual machine would be going through the NIC port, network interface card port, of the host computer to the external world. Now it's up to you if you want to enable the network access of the virtual machine to the outside world, or you can simply make the changes and disable it. Now they are showing the virtual machine running on the host computer over here. In digital forensics, virtual machines make it possible to restore suspect drive on your virtual machine and run non-standard software to suspect might have loaded. For example, if you have created an image of an infected computer or a computer which was the main target, you can create an image of it and boot it up on as a virtual machine on VirtualBox or VMware Workstation. Now the beauty in that is that your original operating system or the original suspect computer which was affected has not been modified as far as the values and settings are concerned. You can keep a copy of it and you can investigate and work on the data which was there. If it was a virtual machine which was compromised, it is fairly simple. You can get a copy of the VMDK file or a virtual machine hard drive file from the main storage, and then you can add it as a virtual machine on your VMware Workstation or on VirtualBox and can view the contents which were there on the hard drive. A virtual machine used to attack another system or the computer. So people sometimes they are using virtual machines on their computer thinking that they don't want to disclose their identity, so a machine will be used to launch an attack and then they'll delete it so that there is no proof for that. Now creating virtual machines, as I discussed, that you can use VMware Server, Player, Workstation, Oracle VM, VirtualBox, or Microsoft Virtual PC or Hyper-V, or VirtualBox can be downloaded at this address. That's it guys as far as this chapter is concerned. If you have any questions or queries, please feel free to send me an email or reach me via message. Thank you very much.